Hello, hello, happy Sunday, superstars. What do you do when you suddenly get sick, and what do you do with your nutrition? Here is a typical example so you don't have the freaking out moment when you don't have a way to eat your calories. I know it sounds funny when you're not into fitness, but when you take it seriously, you know that all those things add up. Yesterday, I was enjoying my acorn and shredded cabbage combination with parmesan, and it was delicious. Then I headed over to my dessert, heaven in a bowl, my delight, my bliss. And I was excited, but then a third into the dessert, I felt this nausea, and it started to come closer and closer. And I know that when I cannot even think about anything but to look at the spoon, I know, okay, I gotta stop here. So I kind of crawled away from the dinner table, put a lid on it so no cat is gonna eat the chocolate, brushed my teeth and went to bed and slept 10 hours. Oh, man, that is so seldom because I'm a yoga nidra person and I have my Buddhist sleep that is 4 hours. So that was really what I needed. Today I feel like brand new. And today is the day when I'm creating all the content from my Instagram subscriptions and to show the real life. And I want you to know, why is it that a female fitness person like me cannot just post how to prepare kabocha, how to stretch a certain ankle, how to, dress in layers. Why? Because that kind of real good educational content that everyone would want to know who's into bodybuilding lifestyle, including myself. How come that is nothing I can post on Instagram without risking to have no engagement and no traction, but a few souls? 1, 2, 3, 4. Why? Is it that I'm posting so bad? The thing is, my demographic has always been the wrong one for what I'm about. 99% of my audience demographic are all fans, men, the ones who wish that I could be their wife. And if they don't want a wife, I'm the typical fitness girl online that they have as a dream girl, and I'm gonna stay like that forever because I'm just that, a robot. Now you who know me, and you who listen to my podcast and love to know the real me when you don't see my body, do you understand that you are my favorite people? Because here's the thing. I know you think it's weird, but I have to really show you and explain to you so you understand how it is. All right. When I started my career, in order for me to become a fitness model, I had to build my body strong and amazing. Strong, so it was pretty much the one of the best in the world. The best in the world means I was gonna grace the covers of magazines, and that is the way to become famous. And when you become famous, it's easier to make your passion, your paycheck. So that was my scheme, my plan to come to America. My whole ambition to come to America first in Sweden, when I thought, how am I gonna be able to come to the country of my dreams that I'm not allowed to come to because I don't have a right? I don't want to marry an American. I don't want to marry at all. And I knew that is usually how women come to America. So that was an uphill battle. I had nothing special to come to America. But that didn't mean that I gave up. I knew I have what it takes. I just have to do it. So on February 1999, the 20th, I saw Arnold on the cover. And that was 180 in my career and my direction of life. I dropped my journalist studying, my 6-language linguistic study, my intercultural communication study, my deep philosophy in English study, in everything study. I quit. I kept on in school, but I was living bodybuilding life. I didn't know there were free weights, so I just found the closest gym, and before I found the closest gym, Nautilus, I started at home with a mini stepper. I bought that from TV shop. I thought that is how you get in shape and build the muscles like Arnold. I remember when I was standing looking out the window on this mini stepper, and I started step, and then I got tired, and I thought, this sucks. I quit that. But I was intrigued, so I kept on doing, and I realizing I have to make an exercise routine. So I did that on my own, and it was all the weird moves of typically half part push-ups, sit-ups, 500 sit-ups, 500 sloppish push-ups, 500 sloppy chin-ups, those things, half moves. So that was how I started. After 6 weeks, I got frustrated because I didn't see any more change in my strength. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? I started to go to the library and I found the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding by Arnold, and that opened up my mind. This was when you go to the library, there was no internet that I could use. The only thing I knew from internet was when we got the first email, and that was Hotmail. That's how long I've been around. So now fast forward, I want to tell you that when you start a challenge or you start a journey and you start a fitness life, it's important to know that this is a continuous education for life. You're never going to be done or graduate. Once you have graduated kindergarten, you're going to go to first class, and then you're going to have tests there. And if you're not behaving, you're going to have to redo graduate in one, because if you don't do the basics, you're not going to be able to keep going and build it up and end up a PhD in fitness, if you know what I mean. So yesterday then I was suddenly was eating my dinner, and all of a sudden I feel nauseous, and my head in the bowl in the dessert department, I couldn't finish it, and that's when I know, I'm getting sick. And then I slept 10 hours. I dropped everything I did, the dinner, and then went to bed and then slept for 10 hours. And here I am today. So now I want to tell you about the way it is to promote this content that I love for my Instagram subscription, and why it's hard for fitness females online to talk about that. Because I understand too that if you always see naked bodies, you always see flex bodies, you always see perfect fitness bodies, it's a turnoff. For me too. So think about that now, that I am a fitness person, I am the fitness model, I am the one who's been flexing. Why? Because in order for to be seen, in order to have any power to be seen, to get sponsorships and all those things, you have to post what gives and drives engagement. So that is why a lot of those extremeness and the wow is popular on all social media. It's all about that. Find someone who has the attention for 3 seconds and then not. So that is why my real fitness life, all the body care, all the self-care, all the prep, all the food, grocery shopping, all the reflections, all that stuff isn't what drives traffic on public Instagram or Facebook, because it's all about sensationalism, extremes. That's why AI bodies, muscle porn, flexed in all weirds, manipulation, all that drives traffic, including negativity, fears, are what drives engagement. So since I'm not about that at all, I'm about making you feel peace and calm and excited, to be loved and be happy to be here, to not open up Instagram and be scared, to actually want to go there and be eager to see, what can I learn today? Can you see that is kind of, I'm in the wrong area? It's like I'm a unicorn in a pig farm. That's how it feels at times. And nothing wrong with pigs and nothing wrong with unicorn. It's just you gotta know your audience. You gotta provide what you need for your audience. So with my audience being 99% men, I am on my way to convert this to women, because I love to teach women. My whole thing is about defending women, to stand up for women, because that was what I promised to myself. I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone who kind of backed me up and supported me. That was a blessing in disguise, because it became my only way was to be my own best friend. And that started when I was a child, and it never stopped. Now, many people are scared of singles, as in female who are singles are not popular around women who are married. And I want you to know, who are married, that a lot of my clients are married with men, and the men are who love to have me for their wife. Why? Because do you know how much conflicts and anger and war at home happens due to diet, change of lifestyle, weird mood swings because you don't know yourself, can actually impact your marriage for the worst. It can also lead to divorce. all by someone wants to be healthy and someone else doesn't want to change the lifestyle. So now remember, you can only change yourself and you cannot impact anyone else. You can influence, you can inspire, but you cannot force someone else to do what you want. So lesson number 1, do not attempt to make other people do what you want to do because you think it's going to be easier for you to have a group to help. That's when you have to know that fitness life is an individual sport. You can have support, you can have people around, you can be around people who do the same, but you're still going to be alone. When I was in my fitness toddler life years and I was in high school, I was too embarrassed to go and eat lunch at the restaurant where we were providing our lunch at that school. So I didn't eat there, and then they made kind of an investigation that I had eating disorders. Well, they were right, but that was not what I was about. I was doing bodybuilding. So I took my frozen fish blocks, Alaskan pollock fish blocks, 18 grams per block, 4 blocks in one little package. And that was my day's protein. And then I had frozen vegetable medley. So no wonder I felt embarrassed, so I ate in the restroom. But I did, and I'm proud that I didn't have it in me to stand up for what I did. I didn't want to be embarrassed, I didn't want to feel, ridiculed, but I did keep going what I did in secret. Sometimes you have to hide, sometimes you have to pretend and play. For instance, here's another one. You gotta go to a social gathering and you don't want to mess up your diet. Just talk and charm and flirt and give all the compliments to the people, and their ego's gonna be so inflated that they will refuse to talk about you because they just want to talk about themselves. So if you want to escape the slander and escape the criticism, talk about them. Talk about all how amazing they are, and you're gonna notice they forget about what's wrong with you. Now that leads me into parenting and how do you raise your children in an environment where all their friends have access to candy, fast food, the lunch bag contains chips. It's pretty much just the culture of fast food, sedentary lifestyle. We're all becoming obese. Now, reminder that about 65 to 70% of the population is overweight or obese. Did you also know how many 2-year-olds are already diabetic type 2 because of the mother has diabetes and high insulin, which of course affects the fetus? Now, I am not having a fetus, I'm not having children, so I should mind my own business, which I do. So here is just my information for you. If I was a mother and I had a daughter now, let's say I would have a daughter who's 13. I know that when I was 8, I hit puberty. That was when I was aware I have a body. At 9, I noticed that my body's gonna change and I don't want it to change. It made me stop eating candy. Then after that, it was the same time it got extra tough at home. I had horrible family relationships with my stepdad. He tried to force me to eat bacon, and that was the worst. He was watching me to eat. And that's how I became really good at manipulating how to eat. So I kind of smuggle away, eat foods into my sleeves. And then I put all those stuff I didn't eat under my bed in a basket. And I forgot, and then all the fruit flies. And then one day my mom found that. And she asked, what is going on? I was on the bed here. And my mom, she didn't know what to do. And she asked, what is this going on? She was scared. And I remember I told her, don't worry, Mom, I know what I'm doing. And now I'm thinking that she let me be. And she was right. Not as a mother, but as somehow intuitively knowing I was right. And I'm so grateful for that. That I was on a path and it was way premature, but that was it. 3 years later, I was 15, and first of all, I went to Germany, and again, to escape, to be at home. I learned German there. I worked as a waitress, and I kept on trying to starve myself there, but I couldn't stop it. So every other day I ended up having tea. No, it was sugar with tea and cream, so it's almost like a whole cup with cream with sugar and then tea. Oh, that was delicious. Couldn't help it, so that became then of every other day eating everything and then starving some days to lose the weight and then continue going on. Then after 15 I graduated and I came to a high school that was special edition for special talents. I applied to that school with all plus A in everything, excellence, except for math and PE. Math was because I didn't care about counting cash or calories. I say that now. But I pretty much had no interest in math because for me, I'm not going to use math, so I'll forget about that. That was my attitude. PE, I was excellent in high jump, ironic. I was excellent in 60-meter sprint, and I was crap in everything else except for swimming underwater with clothes because I could do 6 lengths. So why? I refused to show myself in a bathing suit. I was completely feeling that was violating my human right to have to be almost naked around other children. So I only showed up for dressed underwater swimming. So of course I failed in PE. So isn't that funny that my career became about tracking macros, or no, it wasn't, tracking calories, right? And exercise. But I was a snob and I looked down on anyone who was exercising or playing sport. I thought, who the heck gets anything out of running after a ball? That was me before I was a new Pauline. So now I want to go back to this of what do you do if you have a daughter and she's now 12, 13 and she might be interested to do what I did, being a jockey, which means you have to know your weight, you have to stay thin or lean, or maybe ballet or any weight division is going to have an impact on your child's ability to manage their nutrition and not end up with an eating disorder. So what I did pretty much between 9 and 17 was starving myself. So I didn't do good for growing up a body. That's something that I will always know and have compassion for in my whole life, because all those things add up over time. Now, the thing is, all these things that I did made me terrified about the consequences. So I learned early about I gotta take my calcium, I gotta weight train to keep my bones strong. So I learned that very fast. I was also lucky to learn from a gynecologist who was a Russian ballerina who told me, Pauline, that you don't have to have a regular period. It's going to be hard for you at being a female athlete. Triad is a known phenomenon where your body is so stressed out about the training and it's not good for fertility, so it just stops ovulation. There's nothing to need to ovulate if you can't afford a baby. So she told me, if you're on a birth control pill, you get the amount of estrogen you need for health and you won't need to bleed because you take it consistently. That way you're going to have the best way to keep your health in your bones with the career you are choosing to win. Because I was in that kind of crossroads when I'm thinking, I want to come to America and be a fitness star, but how am I going to do that when I have no bones? That was my kind of all or nothing mentality. So I started on birth control pill at 17. And then when I was competing, I was 3 years, I started at 19, so when it was time to compete at 22, everyone stopped their birth control. It was always that everyone stopped going on the pill, because everyone was on the pill in that time. And I didn't. The birth control pill was famous for making you fat, you can't get lean. It was the opposite, nobody can get lean with a fat storing estrogen. That was what I was told, that was what the science says, that's what the still science says. If you read now, it says that it stunts muscle growth, that estrogen is bad, blah, blah, blah. And I want to tell you that in my life, it has never stopped anything from me at all. So think about that now, that I was on birth control throughout all my building the body strong as an ox from 1999 all the way up to 2010. 11 years. You can compare it to my body. So that's when mind over matter or matter over mind or theory that do not become a slave to believing in the current scientific findings because they are not the same as the truth. It reflects upon the current standing in what we collectively believe. Just like in any medical care, like don't ever become a screening for everything, because if something's gonna be, why not let yourself be a guinea pig for the whole medical world, right? Because, I mean, it's just you're just a patient. And I'm not like that. I'm my own advocate, I'm my own best friend, and I'm my own doctor in that way. So I always take the last call. So now, I want to tell you then, back to this about having a child and how to raise them about nutrition. That if you talk to your child and you explain about nutrition and you lead the way by actually being consistent, you're not bringing cookies and then say, we can have that today. If you have a regimented system for regular day eating that is for fuel, for health, for the body, like work day schools, and then on the weekend you have celebration, and that is also in moderation, that you teach a child about the ratio of work for it and reward for it. Now you're setting up your child to have a good way of understanding nutrition and special occasion, the difference between eating for health and eating for energy and eating just for mind greed. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have just mind greed or things that are just delicious, but it's not part of a healthy diet every day. However, when you change the way you perceive what is good, what is healthy, and you get rewarded by health because your body does give you another whole way of well-being, when you are giving your body what it wants. It's no different than if you give your cat sausage, it's not going to be a healthy cat. But if you give your cat healthy food, it's going to be a healthy cat. So now, since all those children have chips and junk food every day, because that's the culture they're driven from or they come from, and their family's doing the same thing, think about that. Their family don't know anything else. They've been brought up with what they eat, and nothing is vegetable, everything is meal delivered, and everything is frozen, and nothing can fill you up. So that's why we're fat, because if the portion is so small that you have to eat 5 times, of course you're gonna do it. It's no different than when I was laughing at pasta and I thought, a cup of pasta? That's blasphemy. I'm gonna have 5-6 cups because that's what I think is normal. And that's what I did. So I was perfect to become obese if I wanted to. So it is tough when all other children and their family are not at all taking a fight or standing up for healthy eating, because they're not going to do it. So that's the thing. A lot of parents have no interest to change their own health habits. They rather just want the next generation, their children, to do it instead. Which makes sense. You are impacting, making better, but you're not leading by example. And if you're not leading by example, your kids won't care. They will keep on doing what you are doing because that's the way. Now, I know about the rebellion too. For instance, my mom, before she met her different stepdads, she was really good with nutrition. We had oatmeal for breakfast, and when I didn't want oatmeal, I said, I don't want oatmeal, it's so hard to chew. She says, duh, just eat it. There was no other option. And on once in the week, I got cream of wheat, and I wanted that every day, of course, but my mom said, nope. I once got French toast, and I will never forget it, and my mom never gave it to me again, and it was so delicious. So I remember those things. She was really good with that. But then my stepdad came into the picture. He was always bringing home candy. We had a candy stash. So that's when I just fell in love with candy. I never had it in my life. Snickers, German chocolate, and he was always traveling, so he came home with that. So that was then also, of course, how I easily noticed that I'm getting fatter. That was not what I wanted. So it instantly made me aware of the impact of food on my diet, on my body. So when you have a child and it's in a school where all the parents are eating junk food and you can't control your body, your child, because your child is in school, and now you don't want your child to be ostracized or be bullied, or like, just think here. All kids get what they want, chips, chocolate, and they come with that to school. And here your kid is with an apple and a whole grain sandwich with an extra carrot or whatever, you know? Of course they're going to be bullied unless they're really tough. So how do you protect your child from being, secluded from the tough group? What do you do? Because I was a loner, so for me, if I had lunch boxes, which we didn't, my favorite thing in school before I realizing that food is gonna affect my body the way I don't want, I loved food. Everyone else in school hated school food. I loved food. Pancakes was my favorite thing. I was so excited. My whole reason to go to school was to eat. So I loved the school food. And then when I became a teenager and it was a new school and it was in a city, that's when I started to starve myself, and I was in the typical conundrum of I want to be thin, and I don't want to be fat. And if I'm fat, well, then I get to eat and I'm so hungry, but if I'm not eating, then I'm going to be thin. I'm going to be starving, but at least I'm thin. The typical stupid all or nothing, that was my daily conundrum. I was thinking, I'm like a philosopher. What do you do, right? I was wearing 3 pairs of pants in order to kind of fool the school so nobody thought that I was getting thinner and thinner. And then when it was time to weigh in at the nurse, I was forced drinking 1 gallon of water, so it didn't seem like I was losing weight. I was doing all I can, and I was so miserable because I was terrified and I felt that hunger was coming home. The weekends to come home was the worst. That's when I was just completely away from all the stables and using my 23 stables from horses to mocking out the crap in order to exercise. And I was exercising and I wasn't eating. So I was really thin, and that made me happy, right? And so I want you to tell you this so I know how it is to be young and trying to control the only thing you can do. And the reason why I had no control in my life. I felt really, really unseen and left away and tossed out and unwanted in the new relationships with different families and divorced and stepchildren and all that. So the only thing that I had control was myself and my food and my body. So that's how I started. I was doing exercise in my room every day, and I was pretty much just manipulating the family by going up at 4 a.m., making breakfast for the whole family. I was putting breadcrumbs around my mouth. Then I went to wake up my mom and her stepdad to kind of say like, hello, I made breakfast. And they're like, oh, you have grumps here. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see that. To pretty much just fool in their eye that they saw I had eaten. All lies. So what I would do if I had a child now and I was going to have a conversation, I would have it like this. Let's play. So we're playing now that Pauline is the young Pauline and she wants to be a jockey. That means she has to be under 100 pounds pretty much, because the lighter you are and the stronger you are, the more you're going to win. And I was into horse riding. I was racing horses, so that was what I wanted to do. I was taking care of the Olympic horses. They're like 6 feet tall or whatever you say, where the saddle is. And I had to climb up with a ladder. Here's the thing. I would explain to my daughter the difference between eating for nutrition, that is satiety, for hunger, for physically being able to be my best, for performance, to be an athlete. I do need to fuel all my cells because that is how I become competitive, how I'm gonna win. No athlete who is elite level treats their nutrition as it doesn't matter what kind of fuel you put in your car. Why not just vegetable oil or instead of jet fuel, right? So I would do that to motivate my child to understand the right kind of choices matter. I would also never talk about macros. I would talk about what is the food containing. How can you tell if a food is delicious, nutritious, and good for you? And how can I know it's just junk? I would take my child to the grocery store and have a real good education about claims on the package front versus ingredients list, and compare how many servings do I get out of this, because it's easy to manipulate you to think, oh, I can have this because one serving is just 60 calories. But if you look at the 60 calories, it might be that that is, if you have the whole bag, which most people would want, it's 1,000 calories. So that's why it matters, because very few people have one serving of chips when you have access to the whole bag. I wouldn't. Would you? I would also explain to my child that when it comes to body goals and body looks, the body takes form of the lifestyle I live. So if you exercise and you are living a physical body life the way the body likes, the way you take care of a dog needs exercise and proper nutrition and care and love. The same thing is needed for you. So I would tell my daughter that you need to take care of your health and your body, because that is how you're going to have a healthy body. I would also explain and take my child through all the history to show the different kind of body ideals and beauty ideals for women, and I would also explain how they came about. I would explain that back a long time in the past it was about women were like a possession, a trophy, something that was traded for with a big kind of compensation with, I think it's a dowry. Well, it is where you have like money and you give money to the family who takes over the child from the daughter. So then I would explain that marriage today is not about giving away a daughter unless you have in a culture where you have a planned marriages, or the family decides who you're going to marry. I would explain that nowadays the marriage is a personal preference. If you want to have a commitment to someone and you want to be exclusive with one parent, one person, and you want to have children, this is the great way to have a business, an enterprise, because that is what marriage is. Long time ago, marriage was how we had uniting different kind of tribes, different clans, making sure we stay in peace. Two big empires that marry together becomes a stronger empire. That was why it matters to have king and queens combine and so on. So fast forward now, I would keep on looking at the comparison of body ideals. I would go through the Renaissance and the medieval time and show the bodies of the voluptuous bodies that were seen as the epitome of beauty, which today is the epitome of not having any good body at all. I would explain this to my daughter so she sees that this is just a cultural and trained condition to believe. That as many people have the same collective mindset of this is what we believe and see is beautiful, this is what we see is attractive, this is what we want. Then I would tell my daughter that, is this why you want to achieve a certain look? Or is this just you want to be competitive for your sport? I would teach my daughter to understand that your body is nothing that you should only rely on to develop. I would really tell my daughter that the inside of all your skills, your mentality, your personal traits, the way you care for people, the way you show compassion, understanding, acceptance, the more you understand all that, the better you're gonna feel and have a wonderful life. The more you wanna be yourself instead of fit in, the more you wanna just be allowing yourself to be vulnerable and take to know you're gonna be hurt, and that's nothing to be scared of, because you will always rebound, you will always be strong and coming back from a hurt. So nutrition and healthy eating, let's say I would go out with my daughter, we're gonna have a healthy lunch. I would pick the way I do. I would ask for the healthy option. I would say I don't want any dressing, I don't want the bread on the side. I would explain to my daughter that the dressing is just empty calories and the bread is just to fill me up. And since I rely on a calorie budget to have a healthy body, I don't have to count the calories, but I have to know the way the food looks. What kind of food can I eat without being a slave for macros? And then when my daughter would ask, why don't I do macros? Everyone else do macros. I said, yes, but they always fail, because macros means you're gonna sit and calculate your whole life. How are you gonna do that? Your whole life? That's how you start to feel like you are a diet prisoner. You can't trust what you see, what you do. You have to have numbers. And what happens when you can't stick to your numbers? Well, you feel like a failure and you toss out the pages, and then here you go again. So I wouldn't at all forbid my daughter or my child for having the junk or the fast food or the chips, the food that other children are having. But I would also explain why I don't, and I would not ever lead with a two-faced face, so I sneak in ice cream and all of a sudden that's okay to have. Or when my daughter saw me getting an extra cookie, she says, that's not part of your diet. No, but I start over tomorrow. I would refuse to have that, because that's how you teach your daughter to do the same thing. So about parenting and nutrition and all that, and we live in a world where you can get obese simply by eating the food here, and when you're growing and you are a teenager, you're gonna have to eat more. So then think about how you easily can gain fat and high insulin and get diabetes because you just eat the stuff that everyone else is doing, and then you become part of that. So how do you then change? That's the thing. Once obese, you're always going to have the typical inclination to become obese again because your body remembers. Same thing for me. That my body will revert back to where I want if I behave like it consistently. The way I consistently operate my life, the way I am in form. So whatever you do, my wonderful, amazing people listening here, try to have the adult education, the adult understanding. Explain why you do the way you do, and that it's not about a body look. And stop stressing about a typical body part. Talk about health, well-being, performance, how all your body is built on nutrition. Spark the interest for nutrition so they see the disgust with eating this. Because I am disgusted by knowing that people go to McDonald's and eat breakfast and then they eat Dunkin' Donuts for lunch. I mean, how? Because I think about the body who has no idea and cannot do anything but to try to keep you alive by flushing as much as possible into the fat cells. Because when the high sugar stays high, which it does with the way we eat here, most people, your body has to flush that into fat cells, because otherwise you're going to die from hyperglycemia. And the fat cells have endless storage. That's why we see 500, 600 pound people. So do not blame your child for having something they want. If they sneak away with food and you notice that they have chocolate stashes like me, try to make them find bodybuilding training. Make them find fitness. And really do it all about the joy for the body. Talk about the different pancreas. Have every week talk about the new organ, like liver. Let's talk about the liver. What does the liver love to eat? What can happen to the liver? Why is the liver important? Then next week, let's talk about the kidneys. When you excite your body, your child for the body, you kind of make the same awareness of course I don't want junk. Because it's no different than do you want a child to just put in whatever clothes on that looks like crap? No, they like to have a style. I remember when I was 9, all of a sudden I cared about what I looked like. That was the day when I said, I want to have mustard colored clothing. Yeah, before that I didn't even know that you have clothes. It's so funny when suddenly you get self-conscious, but it can go two ways, right? So, to all the children and all the mothers and all you have this problem of, what do I do? My environment is not good for my children and I'm terrified about this because I can't impact it. I want you to know this. Lead yourself and your family the healthy way. Keep your life, your healthy life regimen that is regular eating for regular days with celebration on occasions. Stop giving candy as snacks. Treat yourself the same way, lead by example, and get away from the guilt, because there is no guilt. The biggest problem is when you are forbidding food and your child holds on to that the whole life because they're not going to keep on chasing what is forbidden. And later in life they're going to have the fitness rebellion when you don't want to. Can't say no because you have always been told you can't have it and everyone else could have it. Your childhood of feeling violated, unfairly treated, that why could everyone else have it but I couldn't. It's gonna be what haunts you all your life. That's why now I teach my adults. You can have anything you want, as much as you want, anytime. It doesn't matter how junky it is, how fast food it is. You can have anything you want, any moment you want, as much as you want, just like me. But what do you have to pay for the consequence? Well, you're gonna have the body and the health that comes with it. But hey, You are not forbidden, because forbidden fruit is the most tempting food. What you can't have, you always want. So tell your child, you can have all that the other children have, but you're gonna have the body that becomes like that usually, and that means it's gonna be an unhealthy body. A body that is hard to move, an unathletic body, a body that is just working harder like an elephant. Then I would also explain that all mammals have calories per pound kind of situation in energy provision. That an elephant, pound for pound, needs X amount of calories. A cat needs pound for pound calories. My cat needs around 300 calories for his wonderful size. I have made all my different fat animals into excellent lean cats and dogs by following the same calorie by system. But I wouldn't have made it happen if I did an elephant's calorie level put on my cat. Because the elephant is super big, so all those pounds would add into too many calories for a cat. So now compare that to people. If I'm 120 pounds and I eat the calories for a man that's 240 pounds, then that would be a surplus. And if I eat that every day, I'm gonna gain and gain and gain. Wait until my body feels, well, this is enough, now we can't have more. That means I would have a much fatter body. So that's why it matters to know your calorie budget based on your species. And if you're a mother, if you're a human, you don't really have the range of an ant to an elephant. You're gonna have pretty much the same range. Most women or adults who need to lose fat end up having around 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day in order, consistently, to lose fat and gain muscle. Men can usually have a little bit more, 2,000, 2,500, because they're usually bigger bodied, but if they have the same small body as I am, it's gonna fall under the same 1,700, 2,000 calories in general. So when you take it out of this emotional trouble and you don't want to talk about it, it's not an elephant in the room, and you talk about nutrition and exercise and the body, when you study it with your child, you're going to notice that there's a lot of that stress about what are they going to do, that is just stress and fears, and it's fears that are just in vain. So again, take the conversation with your daughter, or invite me to talk to your daughter, because I love the way I am blunt. I don't talk to your children like they don't understand. Children understand a whole lot more than you know, and they observe. That's why I really want you to stop being a closet eater, someone who says, I'm never going to go back on my word, and then your child sees that you are. Because that is what they're going to hold against you. Anytime you say you got to be better for yourself, they say, I know what you do. So again, you become what you do regularly. You are what you are, and people see what you are, and your children are around you. So to all my mothers, I understand it's tough, but you can be tougher, and you do it out of love. You don't do it to punish your children. You do it to educate them about what they need to know when they're living in an environment where it's Candyland open 24/7. There are no things that warn you. There are no, hey, if you eat this French fries and this burger, you have now achieved your whole calorie budget for the whole day, but you have no protein, so you're deficient there, but you can't eat more because that's going to go to your excess, you're going to gain fat. So that's why you hear so many super obese people say, I can't lose weight because I'm getting hungry. I can't eat that little. It's impossible. It's just absurd. It's unrealistic. It is. When you choose to eat food that is 1 inch big but have 2,000 calories pretty much, of course you're not going to be able to satisfy, because your stomach has hormones that notice that you are extending your stomach. They are getting fullness. So there are monitors. I think it's gastrin. There's different kind of hormones in your gut and in your intestine that register to your brain what is going on, what you're getting. So imagine now if your body feels you're getting nothing, because the volume drives satiety. And there is no volume. So the big taste increases your flavor and your appetite. So you keep on eating because the fullness isn't coming, because the food volume is too small. It's really like drinking liquid ice cream milkshake and put it into your arteries and think that's not an issue. Thank you so much for listening.